Ever wondered if God can use you despite your struggles or past? What if even the most unlikely people are part of his plan? In an astonishing twist, God used a prostitute to protect the spies Joshua sent to scout Jericho, proving that no one is beyond his reach. Join us as we dive into this captivating story of faith and redemption. Don't miss out. Hit that subscription button to stay updated with our latest videos. It all began in the land of Egypt, where the Israelites, a people chosen by God, had been living as slaves under the harsh rule of Pharaoh. For years, they cried out to God for deliverance, and their prayers were answered when God raised up Moses, a humble shepherd, to lead them to freedom. With Moses at the helm, the Israelites witnessed the power of God in a series of miraculous plagues that struck Egypt, compelling Pharaoh to let the people go. As they made their exodus from Egypt, the Israelites found themselves trapped between the advancing Egyptian army and the waters of the Red Sea. In what would become one of the most iconic moments in their history, God parted the sea, allowing the Israelites to cross on dry ground. When the Egyptians pursued them, the waters crashed back, drowning the mighty army and securing the Israelites' escape. Their journey continued to the foot of Mount Sinai, where God established a covenant with his people. On this holy mountain, Moses ascended into the thick cloud of God's presence and received the 10 Commandments, the divine law that would guide the Israelites in their relationship with God and with one another. This moment marked the birth of Israel as a nation set apart, bound by a covenant with the Creator of heaven and earth. As the Israelites journeyed through the wilderness, they soon approached the borders of the Promised Land, the land of Canaan. It was a land flowing with milk and honey, a place of abundance that God had promised to their forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. To prepare for the conquest, Moses selected 12 men, one from each tribe, to scout the land. These spies explored Canaan and returned with a mixed report. The land was indeed bountiful, but it was also inhabited by powerful people, giants in the eyes of the Israelites. Fear gripped the hearts of 10 of the spies, and they discouraged the people from entering the land. But 2 men, Joshua and Caleb, stood firm in their faith, urging the people to trust in God's promise and take possession of the land. Despite their plea, the people were overcome by fear and rebellion. They refused to enter the Promised Land, and in their defiance, they even considered returning to Egypt. Angered by their lack of faith, God decreed that the current generation, save for Joshua and Caleb, would not see the land of Canaan. Instead, they would wander in the wilderness for 40 years until a new generation, shaped by the trials of the desert, could rise and enter the land. Throughout those 40 years, God remained with his people, providing manna from heaven to sustain them, quail for meat, and water from the rock to quench their thirst. Yet, the wilderness was also a place of testing and discipline. The people faced numerous challenges, including rebellions and plagues, but through it all, God was preparing them for the life that awaited them in Canaan. As the 40 years drew to a close, Moses, the great leader who had guided the Israelites through so much, was taken up to Mount Nebo. From there, he was allowed to see the Promised Land, but due to an earlier act of disobedience, he was not permitted to enter. Moses passed away on that mountain, and the mantle of leadership was given to Joshua, his faithful assistant. Before his death, Moses had formally appointed Joshua as his successor, charging him to lead the people with courage and strength. "Be strong and courageous," Moses had said, "for you will bring the Israelites into the land that the Lord swore to give them." With these words echoing in his heart, Joshua prepared to lead the Israelites across the Jordan River and into the land of promise. The Israelites encamped in the plains of Moab, east of the Jordan, as they readied themselves for the invasion of Canaan. Joshua, now the leader, sought God's guidance and was reassured of his divine support. The Lord commanded Joshua to meditate on the law, to obey it fully, and to lead with confidence, for God would be with him wherever he went. As the people made their final preparations, Joshua took a decisive step. He secretly sent 2 spies from their camp at Shittim to scout the land, especially the fortified city of Jericho. These spies would play a critical role in the coming conquest, and their mission would lead them to a woman named Rahab, whose actions would forever change the course of history. Unlike the 12 spies sent by Moses earlier in Israel's history, where each spy was named, including Joshua and Caleb, the identities of these 2 spies remain unknown. Their anonymity may emphasize the collective effort and obedience of the Israelites under Joshua's leadership, rather than focusing on individual heroes. The 2 spies, sent by Joshua to scout the land of Canaan, arrived in Jericho under the cover of secrecy. Jericho was a heavily fortified city, with massive walls that served as both protection and a symbol of its strength. The spies needed to gather critical intelligence about the city's defenses, its people, and the overall morale, but they also had to avoid detection in this hostile environment. As they entered Jericho, the spies sought out a place where they could blend in, avoid suspicion, and gather information discreetly. They found themselves at the house of Rahab, a prostitute. In the ancient world, inns or houses of prostitutes often doubled as places where travelers could stay without drawing too much attention. These establishments were frequented by strangers and visitors, making them ideal for those seeking anonymity. Rahab's house was uniquely situated, built into the city wall itself. This location provided a strategic advantage. The house's position allowed easy access to the outside of the city, offering a potential escape route if the spies needed to flee quickly. Additionally, being part of the wall meant it was less likely to be closely monitored compared to other areas within the city, making it easier for the spies to remain unnoticed. The choice of Rahab's house was likely influenced by several factors. As a woman of ill repute, Rahab would have been accustomed to the presence of strangers in her home, and it would not have been unusual for unknown men to be seen entering her house. This reduced the risk of the spies being reported immediately. Moreover, the nature of her business meant that Rahab had access to a wide range of information, making her an invaluable resource for the spies. Rahab, recognizing the significance of the moment, welcomed the spies into her home. Her actions would soon prove critical, not just for the spies' survival, but for the fate of the entire city of Jericho. Her decision to hide these men and protect them from the authorities was a bold move, driven by her belief in the power of the God of Israel, a belief that set the stage for the dramatic events that would follow. As the 2 Israelite spies took refuge in Rahab's house within the fortified city of Jericho, their presence did not go entirely unnoticed. The city was on high alert, with rumors likely circulating about the approaching Israelite army. News of the Israelites' recent victories over the Amorite kings, Sihon and Og, had likely reached Jericho, instilling fear and vigilance among its inhabitants and leaders. The king of Jericho, responsible for the city's defense, was quickly informed that foreign men, believed to be Israelites, had entered the city and were likely spies. In a city as tightly controlled as Jericho, the arrival of strangers, especially in such a tense atmosphere, would have been noted by the king's informants. These could have been city officials, guards, or even ordinary citizens who were quick to report anything suspicious to the authorities. Upon receiving this intelligence, the king acted swiftly. Understanding the grave threat posed by the Israelite army, he sent a message to Rahab, whose house the spies were reported to have entered. The king's message was a direct command. "Bring out the men who have come to you, who entered your house, for they have come to spy out all the land." Joshua 2:3. This command from the king underscores the seriousness of the situation. Spying was a common tactic in ancient warfare, used to gather information on enemy fortifications, troop numbers, and vulnerabilities. The discovery of spies within Jericho's walls could compromise the city's security, so the king was determined to capture them before they could relay any information back to their leaders. The king's decision to send a message rather than immediately storming Rahab's house suggests that he may have been cautious. Rahab's house was an inn or a brothel, frequented by travelers, so it would not have been unusual for strangers to be seen there. The king might have hoped to resolve the situation quietly, perhaps expecting Rahab to comply without resistance. Rahab's decision to hide the Israelite spies on the roof of her house was a bold and risky act of defiance, one that showcased her cunning, bravery, and growing faith in the God of Israel. The stakes were incredibly high. If discovered, Rahab could have faced severe punishment, possibly even death, for harboring enemy spies. Yet, she chose to align herself with the God of Israel and his people, setting the stage for one of the most dramatic moments in the Bible. When the king's messengers arrived at Rahab's house, they were acting on the information that the spies had been seen entering her home. The king likely expected Rahab, as a resident of Jericho, to be loyal to the city and its leaders. He commanded her to bring out the men, assuming she would comply without question. However, Rahab had already made up her mind to protect the spies. Quickly and decisively, Rahab hid the spies on the roof of her house, which was constructed as part of the city wall. In ancient times, roofs were often flat and used as workspaces or storage areas. Rahab had laid out stalks of flax, plants used to make linen, on the roof to dry. She cleverly concealed the spies beneath these stalks, ensuring they were hidden from view. When the king's messengers confronted her, Rahab did not panic. Instead, she calmly fabricated a story that the spies had indeed visited her, but had left the city at dusk, just before the gates were shut for the night. She suggested that the men could still be caught if the messengers pursued them quickly, directing them toward the road leading to the Jordan River. This deception was incredibly risky, but it was also very effective. The messengers, trusting Rahab's word, hurried off in pursuit of the spies, unaware that they were still hiding on her roof. Rahab's lie not only misled the king's men, but it also bought the spies the time they needed to remain undetected and eventually escape. After the king's men left, having been misled by Rahab's clever ruse, she ascended to the roof where the two Israelite spies were hidden. In the quiet and tense aftermath of her deception, Rahab took a bold step, revealing not only her courage but also her profound and unexpected faith. Standing before the spies, Rahab began to speak, her words revealing the depth of her conviction. She confessed her belief in the God of Israel, a declaration that was both surprising and powerful, given her background as a Canaanite woman living in a pagan city. Rahab acknowledged that she knew the Lord had given the land of Canaan to the Israelites. This was a remarkable statement, as it indicated that Rahab recognized the inevitable victory of the Israelites, not as a matter of military might or human strategy, but as an act of divine will. Rahab's confession continued as she shared the fear that had gripped the hearts of the people of Jericho. She told the spies that everyone in the city was terrified because they had heard of the great and mighty acts that the God of Israel had performed. The news of how God dried up the waters of the Red Sea to deliver his people from Egypt, and how the Israelites had utterly defeated the kings of the Amorites, Sihon and Og, had spread throughout the land. This news had left the inhabitants of Jericho paralyzed with fear, knowing that no earthly power could stand against the God who fought for Israel. Rahab's words revealed not only the fear of Jericho's people, but also her own understanding of the sovereignty of God. She acknowledged that the God of Israel was God in heaven above and on the earth below, a declaration that went far beyond the polytheistic beliefs of her own culture. Rahab, despite her status as a Canaanite and a prostitute, had come to a recognition of the one true God, and this belief prompted her to take extraordinary risks to protect his people. Having confessed her faith, Rahab then made a plea to the spies. She asked them to swear by the Lord, the very God she had just professed faith in, that they would spare her and her family when the Israelites conquered Jericho. Rahab's request was both practical and deeply personal. She knew that the fall of Jericho was inevitable, and she sought to secure the safety of those she loved. Rahab's request demonstrated her understanding of covenant and loyalty. She had shown kindness and protection to the spies, risking her own life in the process. Now, she asked for a reciprocal act of mercy, binding the spies to an oath before God. Rahab's plea was also a testament to her faith that the God of Israel was both just and merciful, and that he would honor the oath made in his name. The spies, recognizing the sincerity of Rahab's faith and the critical role she had played in their mission, agreed to her request. They swore an oath to spare her and her family, provided she followed certain conditions, such as tying a scarlet cord in her window as a sign of their agreement and ensuring that her family remained inside her house during the attack. The spies needed to escape Jericho quickly and remain hidden until it was safe to return to their camp and report to their findings to Joshua. Rahab's role in their escape was crucial, and her actions demonstrated both her bravery and resourcefulness. Rahab's house, built into the city wall, provided a unique escape route for the spies. With the city walls rising high above the ground, the only way for the spies to exit the city without detection was to descend from the roof. Rahab used a rope to lower them from a window that was likely positioned along the outer edge of the city wall. This practical solution was not only discreet, but also ensured a relatively swift escape from the walls of the heavily guarded city. Once the spies were safely outside, Rahab gave them crucial instructions. She advised them to flee to the nearby hills and hide there for 3 days. This period of concealment was essential for several reasons. First, it would allow time for the king's men to search for the spies and return to Jericho, making it less likely that the spies would be discovered if they remained hidden. Second, the hills provided a natural cover and refuge, making it easier for them to evade capture. During these 3 days, Rahab's advice was crucial for the spies' survival. The hills, with their rugged terrain and dense vegetation, would offer the spies a secure hiding place, away from the flat, open areas where they might be more easily spotted. This strategic hiding spot would give the spies ample time to avoid any potential search parties and plan their next move. After the 3-day period, when the king's men had returned to the city without finding the spies, Rahab instructed them to continue their journey back to the Israelite camp. Their mission was to report the information they had gathered to Joshua and the people of Israel. Rahab's guidance ensured that the spies would make it safely back to their camp, where their report would play a critical role in the Israelite strategy for conquering Jericho. Rahab's actions, lowering the spies with a rope, directing them to the hills, and ensuring their safe return, were acts of profound courage and strategic thinking. She risked her own safety and went to great lengths to assist the spies, demonstrating her faith in the God of Israel and her commitment to helping his people. Her involvement was a pivotal moment in the Israelites' conquest of Canaan, and her faithfulness was rewarded when she and her family were spared during the fall of Jericho. Thank you for watching the story to the end. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, please give us a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you're always updated with our latest content. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep creating great videos. See you in the next one.